Hi, I'm Donna Ray.
And I'm Al Wadley.
Welcome to our podcast, Feldenkrais for Life.
In each episode, we will discuss ideas and experiences pertaining to the Feldenkrais method.
You're going to learn skills that will move pain to comfort, anxiety to ease, and we'll explore learning and how to spark creativity.
To learn more about Donna, visit her site at donnaray.com.
To find Al Wadley, go to achievingexcellence.com. Hi, Al.
Hey, Donna. How you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Yep. And here in Southern California and San Diego, it's bright and sunny. We changed our clocks last night, so there's a difference in the air. It's a little crisper. Fall is coming.
Nice. Yes, fall is underway here, very much so. Trees are turning gold and losing their leaves, and we've had nice crisp weather in the 50s. It's been very beautiful here in Colorado.
Lovely. So we're going to talk about a variety of things today. Yeah, and one of the things that we could acknowledge is that we're shifting from summertime to fall.
Yeah.
And that creates a difference in us. It's like the days are shorter, the evenings are dark, that we have more parties, I would say, kind of winterish parties in the dark. I like that, fireplaces going. Even though I'm in Southern California, we do those things.
Yeah, it is a big change, and it's probably more dramatic here in Colorado because we have the snow and the cold and the freezing. There's a lot of things that we change when going from summer into fall and fall into winter, gardens and putting the gardens to bed, and all these things need to change. It's a huge state shift in the environment. It's a huge state shift for a lot of people in this environment as well. It's a big effect on their circadian rhythms, their sleep, their mood, all kinds of things are affected by that change. It's pretty profound, really.
That sounds really profound. So and physically, you're actually making things different.
Yes.
Like you mentioned your garden, or you may have to get more firewood or
yes.
Stuff like that. Get your winter clothes out.
Yeah. You have to start building fires and spend less time outside. I'm inside. So yeah, it's a big change.
Oh. So how would you describe your sense of self regarding that change, your state shift?
Well, I love the change in seasons. Now, I guess I can give you some history here. I used to be the kind of person that when it started going into fall in September, that I'd have really low energy. I'd start feeling really lethargic, really tired, kind of depressed. And over the years, and I believe doing Feldenkrais lessons has helped a lot with this. I'm much better organized. My relationship to the change of seasons is really improved a lot. So now when it changes into fall and winter, I'm so excited about it. I really love it. I love it. I love the shorter days. I love the cold weather. I love being outside in it and how it feels. I like the change in behaviors that I go through these different parts of the year and different seasons. So I look forward to all the different seasonal changes and their temperatures and their changes in the environment. All that feels really good to me. There's really positive changes for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm imagining a cozier, stay at home. It's darker. You probably take advantage of the light, as much as you can during the day. And it's not like you live in Alaska, but nevertheless, there's a change for you.
Absolutely.
And now you look forward to it. And you think that part of that uplift is from doing Feldenkrais work.
Absolutely. That's a key part of the improvement of my health over time and maintaining wellness of my being.
Well, isn't that remarkable? As we grow older, we have become more adept at taking care of ourselves and our wellness.
Yes. You said adept. right?
Yes, I did.
That's a really adept word for that, because there is a skill that we have to learn as we age to take care of ourselves,
Mhm.
is cultivating awareness and learning how to move, learning how to sense ourselves, ways that we can use as feedback for our well-being, whether we, so how we need to make adjustments to our sleep,
Mhm.
diet, or habits, all kinds of things that be sensitive to that. And that takes an adeptness to it. It's a learnable skill. I think health isn't something that happens to us, but it's something that we learn to do. And it's something that's under our voluntary control. We learn to use it that way. And it's a skill.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I Several years ago, as you know, I played pickleball and I stumbled and I broke my wrist. I recovered from that fully. It's actually been 4 years. I can't believe that much time has passed. But I decided it was time to get back in the pickleball court. So I have engaged a coach. And I've only had one lesson so far. But he was incredible. And one of the things he kept saying is reduce the effort and slow down. You have a lot of time. And it was like a Feldenkrais lesson in action, and he actually demonstrated also how simply the feet can move during pickleball. Basically, sliding your feet, kind of sliding, taking your feet together and apart, going right to left, and of course you move forward, but he said, basically, you shouldn't run backwards. It's not safe. And so he was just incredibly informative. And then he was looking at the patterns of movement and the way that to return the ball and how to use the racket is this sort of a diagonal movement across the front of the torso and never taking the racket way far back over your shoulder and hitting the ball, because that's how shoulder injuries occur, which is much of this is true with tennis too. I think the range may be bigger with tennis. But anyway, it was so much fun. And in terms of movement and self control, so informative. So my husband and I went and we took a lesson. We came home and in a pretty short period of time, we were very sore. So the next morning, I woke up and I did a 35-minute Feldenkrais lesson. I got up and all the soreness was gone. And now I've been doing the Feldenkrais method forever, as you know, I mean, really 40 plus years. But I was so shocked that all of my muscle soreness was gone after 35 minutes of lying down and doing very, very small movements. It was it was miraculous. So
Simple.
it's so cool. And this ties in to what you were saying. It's like, okay, what can I do for myself? I really enjoyed playing. I want to play again. But I already determined that maybe every third or fourth day would be a good idea. I don't want to play every day because I don't want to push myself. So my in between is to go do cardio workouts in the water, because there's no joint strain at all. If you're in the water, you have this really nice resistance. The water's kind of warm. It feels so good. You get a really good cardio. Muscles get stronger, but there's no soreness at all. So, as I approach 70, I'm really looking at what can I do every day to keep myself fit and strong and resilient, because it's an important question. And we know that you have to have muscle strength as you get older, because you lose it if you don't use it.
That's true.
So
Decline sport quickly, I understand too.
it's really fun to be using the Feldenkrais method and our knowledge to continue to feel better and better as we're aging.
Well, yeah, and I like what you're describing. You're taking the Feldenkrais knowledge into other domains of uh, strength building that and coordination building. I would call pickleball coordination building, and the water aerobics helping build strength and improve your cardiovascular, all that stuff, and that you bring the Feldenkrais principles into that and approach it like that. You're improving yourself in that way, in a way that is, I think, more congruent, less stressful to your overall organism.
I think it's less stressful, and there's something about learning a skill, like, I have been a tango dancer, an aikidoist. I like learning something new physically. So pickleball is a fun new sport to engage in. It's very very rampant here. There are many pickleball courts available, so that makes it fun. Um, but just to be, in an ongoing way, challenging oneself and looking for state shifting. So let's go back to what you said at the beginning. Weather creates a state shift. Exercise creates a state shift. Doing a Feldenkrais lesson creates state shifting.
In this last year, I've gotten more into doing more fitness kinds of activities. And just recently, I've started lifting some weights. And I used to lift weights when I was a young man. I didn't do it very well. I did a lot of effort and a lot of intensity. And I approach it totally different now. And I do it very slowly. I do it with total body awareness. I'm very aware of how my weight is as I'm doing a movement. I can sense my whole self as I'm doing it. I sort through myself and I look for places where can I let go of extra effort. So I'm not, grimacing and making faces and efforting in unnecessary ways. And so I find it really pleasant. I like lifting heavy stuff. I always have. And I'm doing it in kind of a more organized and specific kind of fitness type way. But I'm bringing that Feldenkrais awareness into it. And I find it extremely pleasant. Just love doing it.
Well, I love hearing you say that. That's something that I look forward to exploring. So I've been encouraged by my two sons they're avid weightlifters, and they say, Mom, you've got to do this. It'll make you live longer and feel healthier and stronger. So they gave me a rowing machine that I use. So that's, it's not lifting weights exactly, but you have the pull and the resistance. So I play with that. But yeah, you're inspiring. I like that, what you're saying. So I'm going to give that a try too. And all of these things change our muscular contractions, our neuromuscular organization, and they change our emotional state.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so let me read Dr. Feldenkrais's basically explanation of state. Okay, so he says all sensory and motor experience is accompanied by emotional expression, and that voluntary muscular patterns corresponding to these emotions are preceded by sensory experience. To every state, there corresponds a pattern of muscular contraction. So let's take that apart a little bit.
Yes.
To every state, there corresponds a pattern of muscular contraction. So all the things that we've been talking about have muscular contractions.
Yeah.
And they create an emotional response in us or an overall emotional state. Now, many people that I know, both my students, my clients, and even friends, they complain about various states of having low energy, being depressed, anxious, all kinds of things. And I think if people really take this seriously, they would see that their state is up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you?
Yeah. So some things occur to me as you're speaking and as you read that quote. That quote's from Body and Mature Behavior, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's in the chapter related to the body pattern of anxiety. Yeah. So in that context, he's like talking about how a state like anxiety has a particular pattern of muscular contraction to it. Generally, contracted flexors in front, tend to round forward, hold the abdomen, shoulders round forward, neck comes down, chin comes down, things like that, limited breathing. And that's a particular pattern that's a general description, but it'd be very unique for each individual who experiences anxiety. But there's going to be a generalization you could look at, you can find that in somebody. And so one of the things that struck me about that description is that we learn these motor patterns and become habits. And these habits persist over time. So even after an event, whatever somebody's been anxious about has passed, your brain, your nervous system are still predicting that motor pattern. And so it's kind of perpetuate that state of anxiety, even though the event has passed about what you were feeling anxious. And so your brain is like, why do we feel anxious? Because the motor pattern is expressing it. And so, people will find things to become anxious about.
Yeah, so in our work, we would say lay down, do a Feldenkrais lesson, reduce the muscular contractions, and your anxiety will reduce.
That's right.
Which is true. We've both experienced that many times.
Yeah. And it's true also. So not only for a difficult state like anxiety, but for joy, happiness, or even a neutral state. The more you can cultivate a state like that, the more your brain and nervous system starts to predict it and starts to create a feed forward pattern. And so you start to have more of those states. So what states we're in over a period of time are the ones our brains start to predict.
That's correct. And we would like to predict pleasure, comfort, neutrality, which can be, to me, neutral is kind of an in-between, shifting, like for shifting from one state to the other. The neutral is a comfortable or calm state. If we were going to create a more of a vivid image of neutrality, I like neutrality. Like when lying on the floor and just scanning and breathing and allowing the muscular contractions to reduce, there's a sense of calmness and spaciousness, and the ability to move into another state becomes available.
Yes.
Which is, it's also linked to being able to move, period, into another direction.
Yes. Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Feldenkrais's description of good posture, what he called acture, the ability to move in any direction without preparation. And if you're preoccupied with anxiety or joy, it's more difficult to shift into another type of action that's not within that domain of what do you call it, emotional access.
Yeah, so we're also talking about flexibility here, emotional flexibility, state shifting flexibility, and this is a skill set, and it's part of it being integrated. So Dan Siegel talks about this, Dr. Dan Siegel, the founder of interpersonal neurobiology. And actually, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett talks about it too, that when a person is able to state shift, they are more integrated. So if we think about the opposite of integration tends to be rigidity and chaos. So people are more or less, we could say, stuck in fewer states if they're less integrated. And when we're more highly integrated, we have the flexibility of moving from, like curiosity to joy or awe, or if we're feeling kind of dumbfounded and we don't understand, we may be feeling confusion, but we can observe ourselves do something that has to do with movement, breathing, resting, change the state, and come up with another idea or thought or feeling or emotional state.
Yeah. Before we started, you were describing what you taught in an advanced training recently, this idea of moving from one state into a neutral state and then being able to choose another state from the neutral state. Kind of what you're describing there. I thought that was really interesting. Can you say more about that pattern that you were teaching?
Yeah. So often when people come to us as Feldenkrais practitioners, they are experiencing some kind of discomfort. So often pain could be a new pain, could be chronic pain. It can be discomfort of frustration, anxiety, depression in all different forms. And so when they begin to speak with us, they're usually in that state. So I have an example. I spoke with a woman recently and she had a knee injury, and then the knee injury developed further. The other leg became hampered. it kind of was a series of problems. And so she came in and she was talking about her frustration. And so we went with the frustration. So I had her describe all the ways she was frustrated first, because you can't change somebody's state. You can't actively say, okay, I don't want you to feel that way anymore. Doesn't work. We all know that. So instead, you listen to them, you support them, you create the link between you and the person you're speaking with, so you have trust, rapport, connection. So when the person's finished, then you say, okay, and now notice what it's like to begin to shift. And I often like to invite people to breathe out all the way. And listeners, you can even play with this while you're listening. So if you breathe out all the way, you begin to shift your state to the parasympathetic calm state. So it's a simple thing of just extending your exhalation. And when you extend your exhalation, you start to become calmer and calmer. And then pay attention to your chest as you're breathing out. And you will probably sense that your inhalation is easier after you breathe out all the way. So continue to play with the extension of your exhalation and noticing the fresh incoming breath that follows the extended exhalation. And now add something to that. Let your jaw rest and let your tongue rest. I'm going to keep talking, but you keep resting and breathe out all the way, very gently. Now, when you allow your jaw to rest and your tongue to rest, your thoughts become slower because there's a neuromuscular response in yourself to all of your thoughts. And we even move our tongues when we're talking to ourselves. It's very subtle, but it's happening all the time. And when it's not subtle, we're talking out loud to ourselves and hoping nobody's listening. So sometimes people will say, what'd you say? Nothing, nothing. No, you were talking to yourself. So rest your tongue, let your jaw rest, keep breathing out all the way, and notice how you are creating a more neutral state. So from wherever you were before to now is calmer and more neutral. Would you say that's true for you, Al?
I would indeed.
So now we've moved into more of a neutral state. We're no longer reacting to anything. We're not even reacting to our thoughts. So now from here, you can create what you want. So if you're thinking about something, you're anticipating a future event, for example, use your imagination and make it really delightful. Why not? So, is there something that you're anticipating that you would like to imagine as delightful, Al?
Ah, yes. Yes. In the very near future, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go into my infrared sauna. And it's intense, and I'm psyched to do it. It's going to feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sweat. I'm going to get hot, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it.
That's amazing. I saw that you just took a nice deep breath too, like, savoring. You're going to savor that intense experience this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, and I can see the expression on your face. And those of you that are listening, imagine something that you're going to be doing and then create more delight.
Yeah.
Even more delight in the experience. I'm going to buy some mums for my yard. They're very colorful. I got to go to the nursery. But I'm imagining how beautiful they are. They're all the fall colors and they'll last several weeks, all around my outdoor areas. And that's going to be really fun. So I love looking at them for weeks. And it's great to go pick them out and put them in the car, drive home and sit them in their places. So when we're thinking about doing something, we want to bring in the joy of it. Now, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but you could instead think, oh, I have to drive to the nursery and there may be a lot of people out today and I'm going to have to deal with traffic. Just a few sentences like that creates the downer mode, doesn't it? It changes the way you're physically organized, changes your emotional state immediately. So, self awareness and actually connecting, seeing that we're connecting to what we're describing in our imaginations as affecting us immediately is so empowering.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
So, I'd like to read another quote that pertains to this by Dr. Feldenkrais. So he says, "You are as good as you wish. You are certainly more creative in imagining alternatives than you know. If you know what you're doing, and even more important, how you use yourself to act, you will be able to do things the way you want. I believe the world's most important advice is to know thyself. And this was first said by one who learned to know himself or herself or thyself."
I love that.
I love that too. It's so empowering. And use of the imagination. Incredible. Incredible.
Totally.
We're always using it, aren't we?
We are. No, we don't know how much we use it. You're unaware of how impactful it is, how important it is, what we think, how we think, and what directions, what kind of mindset we have, and how we use that. It's incredibly powerful. And then Feldenkrais lessons help us to understand that. We do a lot of lessons that involve the imagination. You can find out just how imagining something influences your organization, makes movement easier, changes how you perceive yourself. All kinds of things come out of that. And along those lines, I wanted to share something I learned in my NLP training decades ago, which was hugely influential on me. It really helped me a lot. I was very much in the throes of anxiety as a young man, had a lot of anxiety, and it just stopped me from doing a lot of stuff. I just hesitated almost everything. And very difficult, very much in the sympathetic mode of functioning in the nervous system.
Which would be more reactive, correct? The reactive mode? Or,
deer in the headlights.
okay, so for you, it was like stopping yourself.
Stopping myself. Yeah, freeze reaction.
Right. Okay.
And so we learned in my NLP training this strategy called chaining states. So taking one state into another state, into another state. And the states are similar enough to each other. You can make a nice transition from one to the other. And they take you in the direction you want to go. So the strategy I learned was to start with a state which is hesitance, which I was really good at. Like a really good top-notch hesitator. And then move into a state of curiosity. And I could do that because I was curious about things. I like to explore things and learn things and figure things out. And then go into a state of confidence. Well, there's areas in my life where I had confidence, and I could get into a state of confidence from there. And there are things, the next state would be a state of excitement. Okay, there's things I can get excited about. And then go into a state of decisiveness or go for it. And so I was able to do that. So I made that change for myself, and I would run through it over and over and over again. So I can go from hesitation, from being frozen to taking action. It was a huge, huge learning experience for me. The way we did it initially was to imagine laying these states out on the floor. So each one occupied a different spatial space. So step into the space that was hesitation, and then step into the space that is curiosity, and step into the space that is confidence, and step into the space that is excitement, and then finally the state that is go for it. And so you chain these states together. So when you hit a state of hesitancy, you automatically start to chain forward into the state of go for it, do it. And that's a big change for me in my life. I started feeling a lot better and getting a lot more things done with a lot less effort.
That sounds profound, actually.
It was.
To be able to link, it's like a chain of action, basically.
Yes.
A chain of action from one step to another, actually on the ground, imagining those plates are like I'm thinking of a hopscotch kind of jump from one to the other. you know? But it sounds like you primed your brain so that you could more and more swiftly pass from hesitancy to action. Is that right?
Indeed.
Mhm,
Exactly. Yes.
mhm.
Yeah.
So we're talking again about skill and self-training.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the use of the imagination. All that is done in the imagination to access those states, to imagine where they are, laid out in space, to take myself through them, and to build that chain of action to be able to move through that easily and comfortably. So the power of the imagination is phenomenal.
It's remarkable.
And
Yeah.
we do need to learn to use it to our benefit because imagination can be a torment too. Yeah.
Oh, it's generally torments people. I mean, people imagine all kinds of terrible things all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
I have done it.
oh, me too.
Happens to me. You know.
Absolutely. But when it happens now, I do something as quickly as possible to change the course of my
Mm.
imagination.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes we regress, we have a lot of information and skill at this age of life. But if you're under stress, you haven't slept, you're traveling, something, has gotten in the way, you're not eating as well as usual, you've fallen off of your exercise program, whatever, so many things can disrupt our self-care.
Mhm.
So the sooner you get back into your ability to self-care and interrupt wherever the imagination is taking you, whatever direction you don't want to go, nip it in the bud as fast as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. A few months ago, I don't remember what happened. Something was agitating me. I wasn't aware of how much it was agitating me. And I started to become aware that I was having all these conflict thoughts, thoughts of being in conflict with people and having arguments and things like this. And I'm like, what is this coming from? I haven't had these thoughts for a long time. It's like, what is going on? What is triggering all this stuff? And then I was thought back, oh, it's that thing that happened, that issue, which I can't remember what it was now. Whatever it was, it's past. When I became aware of that, it's like, okay, I need to address this. I need to work on that because I do not like having all these negative thoughts, these imagining conflicts, all this stuff. Not useful. So it's also, if you're paying attention to what your mind is doing, to be a barometer or feedback to you about what your states are, what's going on, what you're thinking, and you kind of go back. So what's causing me to think like that? Why am I having conflict thoughts? Or whatever kind of thoughts, negative thoughts you have, what negative loops you get into. So I used it as kind of a biofeedback. I was able to step back from that and figure it out, make some changes.
So you were able to step back, observe yourself, and see that something had triggered an old pattern that you no longer generally experience, but it was familiar. It was an old pattern. Step away from it and say, what's going on here? And realize, and then make a correction in yourself.
Yep.
And that's phenomenal. And that's what Dr. Feldenkrais was talking about, I believe, when he said, know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way of knowing thyself. So one of the things I add to that when it happens is I remind myself that I'm usually disturbed because I care about something.
Hmm.
So if it's a relationship issue and something was said, for example, that was uncomfortable, whatever it is, I stop and say, okay, I really care about this person. I really care about the outcome of this. And that makes me feel like, oh, I can do something about it.
That's a really nice frame, Donna. I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then you can apologize, you can revisit it, you can change your behavior. You have options as soon as you realize that you care.
Absolutely. You put that in the frame of caring. It's like it totally reframes the negative thinking or feeling that you're experiencing. It's like, okay, yeah, wow, it's really important. It's important.
Yeah, I can even feel as we're speaking, like if you feel a conflict, there's like a tightness in the chest. I don't know if do you feel that too?
Yeah, my
Or
chest, my jaw.
jaw, chest. And as soon as I say, I really care, it's like I can breathe.
I felt that. When you were talking, I felt that. It's just like when you put it in that frame, I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's really cool. It's like just like my chest opened up, I did breathe, my jaw relaxed. And
Yeah.
so like, oh, that's cool. But so also what we're just describing here is just how easily we're influenced by just a simple conversation. And a simple conversation, we're going through all kinds of different states. We're just talking about these different experiences we've had. And we're guiding each other through moments of tension, anxiety, and then going into state of openness, relaxation. And it's like those state shiftings happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, in a fluid experience, we're going to have negative experience, we're going to have positive experiences. And it's just like, that's life, because stuff happens in life. We just want to be able to be fluid through it and cultivate that neutral place so we can get back to, like you were describing earlier. So we have a place from which to move in any direction,
Mm-hmm.
to take action, change our states, and to be more the person we want to be in life.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And listeners, I hope that you will, give what we're talking about some thought and experiment with doing awareness through movement.
Yeah.
And really noticing how an awareness through movement lesson will change your state, open you up, give you options, create curiosity, calmness. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Do some ATM.
Do some ATM. You can find ATMs at donnaray.com, on my website, and achievingexcellence.com. Al has a lot to choose from there. So pick and choose, and always have an awareness through movement lesson handy on your phone. So you can just push play, lay down, do the lesson, or sit. We have sitting lessons too. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to follow up with a question, send an email to info@feldenkrais4life.com. We would love to hear from you.
You can learn more about us on our websites.
You can find Al at achievingexcellence.com.
You can visit my site to join my classes and reach out to me for private lessons online or at my Longmont studio. You'll find my store, the Feldenkrais store, there as well. We can purchase books, audio products, and videos. Donna's website is donnaray.com.
And if you visit my website, you'll find that I'm offering individual sessions, group classes in the Feldenkrais method, mentoring groups, professional Feldenkrais training program information, and recorded lessons.
Thank you again so much for joining us. We look forward to you hearing us next week.
Bye now.
Bye.